Welcome to a special edition, not of the weekly watch list, but of something that we carried on from last week. You may see a familiar face, you may see a new face, but this is a Marvel Masterclass, and I'm joined by two hobby masters, known very well on the PWCC platform and within the entire Marvel universe. I've got Justin with me right now. Thanks for joining us again. And Absolutely. Justin knows good people. Good people find good people. He's also got another hobby master, and that's Sketch Card Hive joining us as well. Guys, thanks for being here. Really excited about the Marvel Universe. Justin, you've been out there moving and shaking and connecting with people and like spreading the gospel of Marvel cards, which I love because it needs to be spread.
The Marvel card gospel.
Absolutely. It needs to be spread, man. It brings a lot of light to sometimes a place in collecting where you maybe can't buy wax, you maybe can't find the cards you want. And so to find a new category, I believe people watching our show and that are on our platform, they're always doing that and looking for it. So we've got Sketch Card Hive here right now, and he's here to talk to us about sketch cards, which, based upon my understanding, that was the first chase card. That was the original case hit. There's so many nuances and they're so unique. And so tell us about that, if you would, Norin. Share with us, if you could, the history of sketch cards or artist proof cards as they're known. Where did they come from? Why were they developed? And how do we find the cool ones?
So many good questions. So when we think about Marvel cards, Marvel cards really kind of taken off in 1990. The original one's from 66, but 1990 was the set where all of these artists that were working on Marvel comic books were hanging around the office, and somebody who worked there, the creative director, Bob Budiansky, was like, hey, I need a couple of characters for this new card set Marvel's making, Marvel Universe. And that was it. And then you had Jim Lee, Tom Morgan, all these amazing artists just contributing to these sets. So at first you had holograms, you had spectra effects, right? Where you had the weird kind of like really cool textured cards from 93 and all this kind of stuff. And then in 1997, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, we get sketch cards. Now, sketch cards are, for me, and the reason I'm Sketch Card Hive, and I don't have tons of sketch cards. I am not the sketch card master. I love them. I've been following them for a long time. And I have a few and I've seen a lot. So I'm very lucky to have friends who I'm connected with who correct me on things I don't know. But 1997, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, they're not one a box. I think they're one a case. So It's super rare.
Yeah, it was like 1 out of 288 packs. I actually think it was more than a case.
More than a case, way more than a case. So It's super rare. And the artists that are in that set are the biggies, right? People who created characters for the first time. The people who penciled, inked, and painted and colored, all this other stuff, writers, right? Mm-hmm. And they kind of made these things called sketch cards.
Okay, I gotta ask you. Yeah. I need to ask you a question, if I can.
Please.
I'm here mentoring and learning because
I love it.
The passion is ignited inside of me. So that's why I told you guys earlier, like I kind of like this show because I speak for the people, hopefully, but also have my own interests at heart. And I'm
Right.
really interested in these. So I call those guys the OGs, right? The OGs
Yes.
of Marvel characters in the comics. What is the difference between a penciler and an inker, and is one better than the other? And who are those OGs that are pencilers and inkers?
Okay, so there's so many pencils and inkers, so it's really hard to say who's which and where. The difference primarily between a penciler and an inker, from my knowledge, is that a penciler really understands composition and framing of the characters and the panels, right? Body positions, figure drawing kind of stuff. And an inker goes in there and gives them really fine definition. And a lot of times the inker will add dimension to shapes, kind of like when you shade an apple, right? It makes it three-dimensional. And that's kind of the relationship between a pencil and inker, from what I know, from my knowledge.
Penciler is kind of like a framer of a house, and then the inker is like the finisher who comes in with the drywall and the trim and the paint, the cabinets, and finishes it up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to rephrase the question then, because you guys did not answer what I asked. That's okay. That's all right. This is how this works. If I worked for Don Draper, would I be from Mad Men? Would a penciler or an inker be more important to him?
The penciler, because they're the creator of the character in a lot of ways. In my opinion.
Okay. Inker's important.
It's hard, man. It's so hard. It's hard. It's tough. Right now? It's tough. So it's tough. It's tough because it's weird. It's like when you're making a movie, right? Do you consider the sound person less important than the camera person? I say no.
Oh, yeah.
I say no, never, no, please.
If you could ever go watch Star Wars without the sound, it's a totally different
experience. Does not sell as hard as it should.
Why did you just have, you just had to do the nuclear effect there, you to go Star Wars and then the sound? I mean, come on, the most important thing there was. All right, fair enough. We'll move off that hill. Well, that is helpful. So who are, we know these iconic names, and the reason I ask is because each artist signs a card. Is that correct as well, or do they just draw on it?
So usually with a Sketchograph, they sign their own work. Sometimes the artist doesn't sign, so that tends to happen too. Unfortunately, either they forget, they don't get enough time, and people consider those variants. And sometimes the artist will sign 3 or 4 and not sign the rest. So, and sometimes also the really cool thing about sketch cards is that the autograph will move. So they'll do quite a few. So for instance, John Buscema, right? Who is one of the most legendary comic book creators of all time, drew Silver Surfer. Like he's one. And Jack Kirby drew Surfer and created the character for sure. And John Buscema was Silver Surfer 1 and kind of continued the line. And Buscema did a lot of characters, created a bunch of storylines and really defined a look of the early comic books as well. And he has an insert card in Marvel Silver Age, 1998, 98. And he drew Surfer in there. And there's a range of Silver Surfers that you'll probably see on screen shortly, where it goes from the most common rendition of the Surfer he did, which looks unshaded, uninked, right, to the most detailed Surfer, which has ink lines and it looks very fluid. It looks like just came off the page, and it is just pencil and ink. So you can see that variation there as well. But yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So they're all one of ones in their own right.
Yes.
Okay. That makes
sense.
They
are. And one thing to note in the 97 is they didn't call them sketch cards. They called them sketchographs.
That's right.
Okay,
that's right.
So it went from Sketchographs then to Sketch Card in 98. Did I understand that correctly?
Actually, it's sketch cards all the way. So Sketchographs from Fleer. I have a back of one right here, so I can confirm.
Yeah, pull up an exhibit right now. Let's look at it.
Sorry. So right here's the back of what a Sketchograph looks like. So you got a little pencil, blue line of Spider-Man in the back with the emblem of the set, and then the phrase of the insert set called Sketchograph right there. Okay, so this is an AP I got from Tom Morgan, where he did the Surfer.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cool.
So why was one penciled? Why is that the difference? Is one was done by a penciler and one was done by an inker?
No, this is just a flat image that's printed on the back of the cards. So like every back of the card has like a different look to it type of thing.
Okay.
So, for instance, like, so the 3 earliest ones look like this, right? So you have this guy over here, which is Fully Ultra Spider-Man. You got Silver Age, and then MCC 98, Marvel Creators Collection, 19. So you have that on the back there.
Okay. Marvel's Creator Collection. Okay. Yeah. Creators Collection. And then, so those came in 97 Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, and then in 98, what were those pulled out of?
So the 3 sets are Fleer Ultra Spider-Man 97, then 98 the Silver Age, and then you have Sketchographs also appeared in Marvel Creators Collection 1998.
Okay,
which is another set.
To remember that this was
very cool.
This was kind of a dark time for Marvel cards. They were not as available and out there for the general public to consume.
Yeah, 96 was the big kind of issue with Marvel card production and Marvel Comics in general. So when 97 set came out, you know what I mean? It was slim pickings type of stuff. And then that kind of continued. And the reason you don't see a lot of these cards here is because they kind of operate on the same level as like original art for comic books. And the same people who collect those pieces, art pieces, also collect these. So they never come up for auction, pretty much ever.
I mean, what a cool cross storyline, because as a sports card collector for more than 20 years myself, I think about what you are sharing, and the only equivalency I can identify is like a printing plate, right? Potentially, and printing plates, it's a manufactured process. There's no real human skill or art that's applied to it. Sometimes they'll autograph or they'll put a patch in the printing plate to make it kind of a little cooler, a little more unique. This is truly like a genre GOAT, one of the all-time greats, an OG that's drawing on the card a one-of-one sketch, like Jack Kirby, Stan Lee. John Byrne, I think, is one of them too. Did I say his name right? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if John Byrne had any sketchographs, but yeah, John Byrne's definitely one of the great.
John Byrne's one of the greats, right?
Adam Kubert, which is a big
Adam Kubert.
Big
Yeah.
And they're literally drawing you your own card. And
John Romita.
I mean, that is so cool. That is so unique. Because the only other thing I can imagine that would fit in that category in the crossover of sports cards would be maybe even an inscription. So like if LeBron James wrote, and maybe one of his cards like King James, or Kobe wrote Black Mamba. And if you've seen those cards, those things are highly contested and fought over, and people will do anything to obtain those. It feels like to me, or at least the sense I'm getting, is that these are still out there just because people haven't been educated about them, which I love. That is so cool. This is a piece of art.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're out there. I wish they were out there. I want them out there, but they're not out there.
Oh man, all right.
I wish they were out there. I know. Listen, I am in the same boat. I've been collecting these, definitely not as long as everybody else, but I've been pining over them for some time. And I think the biggest thing that comes with sketch cards is kind of the education of the artists and who they are and the creations they've made. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of people understand, how significant it is. I mean, the crazy thing, you're a card collector. So when you're a card collector, pack pulled is like, those words are beautiful, right?
They're
pack
everything.
pulled. They're everything. They're everything that matters in this world is pack pulled. And for a sketch card to be, so you can go to a convention, go to an artist and have them draw something. So, some artists unfortunately have passed away, so we can't have that anymore. But you could do that and have that experience, right? But for a pack pulled sketch card, you know what I mean? From these guys who are sitting there to draw some of the most iconic moments in comic books, it's crazy. It's just for me, sketch cards are everything about Marvel cards.
It is. It's just such a fascinating storyline and insert. Justin, can I ask you a question about the sketch cards? What did they have to do in order to influence, I'll say, some of the OGs in this industry to do these sketch cards? I mean, I don't know how long they took, but I mean, just the one you showed me earlier, Norrin, with the Silver Surfer, that looked like it had a lot of granularity in the drawing, and they took their time with it and they made it look really cool. Maybe it's because I'm not an artist. I mean, I can draw a stick figure, but maybe for them it was pretty quick. But what did that look like for them, Justin?
Well, I think that it was kind of the stars aligning, because if Marvel doesn't start going bankrupt and having to sell off licensings in '96, I think these guys are too busy to do Marvel sketch cards. So I suspect that decline in the comic book world created the time and space for them to take on a project to sketch or etch these cards, so they could become pack pull grails for collectors. Because you actually don't see the big, huge names that are out there putting out comic books on a weekly basis that even maybe household names. You don't see those guys and gals doing sketch cards anymore, and that's not to diminish the ones that are doing it. I'm just talking about, did they just finish a comic book issue of Spider-Man and then do a sketch card? You don't see that as much as you do in those early sketchographs. Like, seriously, I like to point out the Stan Lee here for a few minutes, who sat down and drew Spider-Man and then signed it in pencil, and then it got put in a pack, and somebody opened that pack and pulled out that card. It's just mind-blowing. And so I think the decline of the comic book industry in '96 and Marvel specifically actually led to them being available to do that.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So who are the most chased after characters? And maybe that aligns with the artist as well, because didn't some of these artists actually create these characters?
Yeah, they did, which is really cool. Yeah. So, gosh, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So you have a few different, so in Silver Age has a really good set because it has a lot of these OG creators basically in the set. So for instance, I'll show you one here now so you guys can see. So so Silver Age has this really cool thing where the artist would sign a card that has them pictured on it, right? This will never happen again on card because, well, a lot of these, guys have passed away, so you would have like
so
a Stanley.
What is that?
So this is an autograph card from Silver Age, and there's only 100. Stanley Sig on there, and it has an embossed stamp, so you can see authenticity, and it's pack pulled.
Is it serial numbered?
Not serial numbered. On the box, it says there's only 100. So a lot of us save the boxes and the sell sheets to keep a record of all this stuff, so we know, which is the only way to do it. So you have Stanley here, and you got John Romita.
What did John Romita? What was his contribution?
Justin's got this.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not thinking of John Romita right off. Oh no, John Romita did AMS Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
was he the inker or the penciler?
He would have been. Actually, I think he would have been more of an artist who actually wrote some of the comic
storylines.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
That's super cool.
I think he's more of an 80s comic book artist.
Okay.
And you have a junior and a senior, so you gotta pick out the
comic book royalty, basically.
Yeah. Comic
book royalty. So father, son, and storytelling. That's actually a really interesting point. You brought that up, Justin. Is that's like kind of one of the core cool things about comic books, right? That apply to the comic cards and the characters and storytellers. So we've actually got cards where the storytellers signed their name on there. Maybe they didn't do a sketch card, clearly, because I don't think anybody necessarily maybe want that. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that's really cool.
It's really cool. So to say this a little more clearly and more effectively, so it can be really interesting. So John Romita, for instance, from the Silver Age set, he is the co-creator of the Punisher and Wolverine.
Oh, he is?
He is. And there are sketch cards of Romita, drawing Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy. He worked on Amazing Spider-Man, defined that whole series. I mean, he is, like I said, comic book royalty type level. Yeah, which is pretty crazy. But what's really awesome is that you get all these kind of sketches by these people, and you can see, how, their signature, their legacy, and then their creations and work. So this is Wolverine. And this is by, I believe, I'm going to say this wrong, and I know people are going to crucify me. How do you say it, Justin? Marnie Savine, I think is how you say it.
I do not know how to say his name.
I have to look it
up.
I
thought you were going to say Bill Sinkovich. I was like, I can say that one.
Bill Sinkovich has done sketch cards in the earlier sets, and Bill Sinkovich is the creator of New Mutants and is a legendary comic book artist and writer. But so she's a very famous comic book artist and writer and co-creator and all this good stuff. And she has sketches too, and they're very rare and very sought after. Very detailed too.
So Norrin, can you hold back up that Wolverine?
Please, absolutely.
With the front image. So if I'm out chasing this card, how can I tell from the front, and maybe there's no way at all, that this is either a 97, 98, or they're on release of a sketch card?
This is an example of each one of the 3 different sets.
Okay.
And there's no way to tell.
The backs are all the same?
Back.
Oh, the
backs are the different.
Because they have that same border.
The same blue line. So it's the comic board. So it's the same blue line design where it says fold marks. It's basically part of my logo. And I pulled it because it's, where some of the greatest collections of heroes that we know and villains were made and, put on there.
No, that's really cool. And I
Cool.
want to provide people with details, because what will happen, right, is you get a passion for this, like I already have. And I've started looking at a variety of different Marvel cards, and they did really some unique things. They actually mirrored and paralleled some sport card concepts, but they did a lot of things on their own. And so as I'm learning about it and growing in this particular category, that's one thing I've noticed, whether it be a PMG or a sketch card or some other insert. I'm trying to learn all the nuances, because sometimes you don't have a lot of time, even at a show, when you're going through and there's people here and there and you're trying to get a view and take a look at something. It's like, what are the distinguishing factors or marks that you want to look for on sketch cards? And that leads to my next question is, so you move on from 97, 98, 99. Were there then sketch cards in every release of those products we discussed earlier? Oh, what happened and when did they come back?
So sketch cards, yeah, go ahead, Justin.
Well, I can say after 98, there was an absence of sketch cards.
I believe until, and hopefully I'm right on this, but I believe it was until 2001 with Marvel Legends.
Okay.
Marvel Legends. And they had something called custom covers, Marvel Legends. And that was their form of a sketch card sketchograph. So Marvel Legends, right? What they would do is that they would actually have, similar to a What If from the Marvel Masterpieces 2016, 2018 that everyone's starting to dive into, they would have the cover of the book and then a blank space where the person would draw the character.
Okay.
This was one of the final sets that kind of had comic book legends in it, other than like the complete Avengers set. And this was starting to kind of, slow down significantly because, and this was a Topps product too. So
okay,
this was,
Topps production,
which is crazy because Topps only was the sticker set in 77 and 76, right, Justin? And then you had Marvel Legends. And I think other than like gaming cards and stickers and stuff like that, I think these were some of the few sets they ever made for Marvel.
They have the digital rights right now, but they can't put.
Yeah, so if you're collecting digitally, you're getting a lot of Marvel cards on there. Yeah.
Or if you're collecting the true print run, Topps only owned the license in 97 is what I'm hearing.
No, 2001.
2001. The 97, 98 series of sketch cards I told you about, those were from Skybox, which Upper Deck owns.
That's right. Yeah. Skybox had the embossed stamp on it to show authenticity. 2001, for 1 year, Topps owned the license and they produced the print run, which is really cool because there's a lot of people that collect the certain manufacturers.
Yeah.
Make that clear for the audience. That's very, very cool. And those inserts from Topps that year, sketch cards were called what again, Norton?
They're called custom covers.
Custom covers. Okay, very cool.
Or custom cover. Might not be plural.
Hey, if you select one custom cover, you're going to get custom covers.
I know. I felt bad. I want people eBay to be like, I'm not seeing anything after covers.
No, exactly.
It's custom covers because we've all been there.
All the custom covers because
he's holding it.
Right.
Sending out false information. That damn S.
Well, so moving beyond that, I've looked and seen that there are some stunning sketch cards where it's not a sketch. Sketch isn't the right term to define it. It's a full out masterpiece. And maybe I'll lead into that with the Marvel Masterpiece series has some just stunning artist sketch cards. What can you tell me about those?
So at one point, sketch cards went from getting comic book legends and people who were contributing to comic book runs. And they moved over, and this kind of happened around the Rittenhouse years. And somebody I could consider the godfather of sketch cards is Warren Martinek. And he's a phenomenal artist. He was kind of like the creative director at one point, and he was the real reason that, we have sketch card artists that we have today. So people doing the full on paintings, people doing insert sets where characters are doing different things. Like there's even a sketch card out there, Wolverine, and he's clawing down the card, and there's actually 3 cuts in the card.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's a cool one of one. Yeah, I mean, there was some really amazing leadership from him, and he, of course, found amazing women and men to come into the industry and people to really create some of the most iconic types of sketch cards. And that's what started having illustrators and people who were looking to go into comic books and kind of just starting out to people who would be doing it for a long time but have their own flavor.
Right.
breaking into the hobby.
So those guys and gals were doing that. I mean, were they on the come up then? Were they like, up and comers, and they
a lot of them were.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
It became a place to be discovered, and discovered a lot of them were.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that probably should lead us into NAR.
NAR.
Let's talk about NAR. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Let's get it though. Let's go there.
Oh my gosh. If I had a NAR, you would have a NAR on screen right now, but I will find you examples of a NAR because I know people who have amazing NAR cards.
Oh, my friend, you're going to get a NAR delivered to you after this episode. So
he's gonna be like, excuse me, here is a NAR. So you got Anthony Tan, you got NAR, you got Effie, you got what is it? You got Fred Ian, you have, oh gosh, you have so many amazing artists that are, artists in their own right, but have really kind of carved out a section of sketch cards and it's impossible to get something called an AP. And to clarify what that is, basically an artist, and this might help now, sketch card artists are contacted by Upper Deck. They're paid X amount and they're given a stack of cards. And they say, oh, you're going to have 100, you're going to have 200, you're going to have 50, you're going to have 10. And the great thing about Rittenhouse is that you had the number of sketch cards every artist did. So some artists would do less sketch cards than others, making them more rare and more, desirable. But the artist would get them. And then based on how many they have, like every 10 or whatever the number is in terms of the contract agreement, they would have something called an artist proof.
Okay.
And it would have an AP on it. And in this AP, you were able to sell that directly to a customer. So if someone really picked, like say I pack pulled a card, right? I'm like, oh, I love this card, right? Like Juno Sanchez, right? Who did this amazing Spider-Man.
You've been holding out.
Of course I've been holding out. I showed you this. I didn't show you this. Okay.
So is that inked or is that watercolor? That's just stunning.
Isn't that cool? So some people do watercolor, some people do markers.
Wow.
I believe this is a mixture of pencil and watercolor. I can't remember. But I mean, he's just an awesome artist.
Oh, go mode right there. That's next level. That's somebody that wants to be discovered right there, right?
This guy he's an amazing artist and has a big following. He's super kind too. And basically, like, let's say I got this out of a pack. I'm like, damn, that looks cool. But you know what? I like to see a character like, I don't know, Black Widow or Psylocke. I'm like, let me see if I can find the artist online. And then you would go find them and they say, oh, I only have 3 or 6 APs. And then they would charge you X amount of dollars, depend on their level of success. And then you would have that AP and you would be able to kind of have a one-of-one with your own character. So for instance,
is it a commissioned piece then? That's a question that pops in my mind.
Exactly. It is commissioned, but the best part about the commission, which is the most important, is that it's on official stock.
Love that.
Okay. Instead of being a personal sketch card is a PSC, and that's just them having their own cards, blah, blah, blah. But this is an official stock card that has AP written in it. So for instance, you have this card here. Fully painted acrylic. Oh, and wow, this is by the same artist who drew 2018 Marvel masterpieces, Simone Bianchi.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is the artist of the whole set, and this is one of his APs.
That is so cool. Can we see the back of it?
Absolutely. So the back is the official stock, as you can see, and you have the lineation of the lines as well to show. Okay. And on the back, he signs it and dates it on when you got it.
I love that he dated that. That's really cool. And
it's very cool.
What set did that come out of?
Marvel Masterpieces 2018.
2018 Marvel Masterpieces, and that was pack pull.
No, it's an AP.
It's an AP.
It's artist proof. Yep. So in the lower left-hand corner, that AP.
There you go.
That was a commissioned piece.
They're not supposed to cover over the AP. So
I love that. And that's why I asked that question, because these are the nuances if you're in this market. And this is so cool. This is like, it's already in my blood now, Marvel cards. I'm like liquidating sports cards right now, like moving to the Marvel cards just because I think they're so cool. And the other part of it is like my son will actually geek out with me on Marvel cards. He's kind of like, Dad, we're going to talk about Kobe or LeBron or, Joe Burrow again. And yeah, I'm going to always talk about those guys. But like, he's kind of into the the fairy tale, the story aspect of these characters. So I want to cover these nuances for people that are going to move into this category. So that's really helpful. Thank you guys for that.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Well, and
so we got the AP, and how many of those do they do? Do we have any idea?
So it depends. Usually they tell you, hey, I only got 3 or 4 from the company.
Okay.
And so I can only sell 3 or 4. And usually the number is low. It's not high. It just depends. And they've worked over multiple sets. So maybe they don't have an AP from Marvel Masterpieces, but they have one from Premiere, right?
Okay.
So you can get one drawn on Premiere. So that's usually how my conversations go with them.
And some of the artists are so sought after that you can't actually commission. They actually have to auction or lottery their APs.
Really? Okay, that makes sense.
They have so few, but so many people are after it.
So Fred Ian cool. is a very big name right now, and for the right reasons. He is the main artist for Marvel Unbound, which is the equivalent to Star Wars Living Set released on Upper Deck EPAC. And what he does with his APs is that he'll draw his AP and he'll pick the character, post it up on eBay, and share a link on his official page. And each one of his cards always go for over $1,000. And they are highly sought after, similar to Nar. And Nar was kind of like a big name at one point, stopped working on sets, but he still gets commissions years after stopped working on Marvel sets.
Man, this whole thing makes so much sense to me now, because I've always wondered about that Post Malone line in that song, my AP going psycho. It's like his artist proof. I mean, he's like, everybody wants to get that artist proof card, and they're just trying to get his collection. Like, art mimics life. I just trying to figure that out. So, man, you just cleared up a big issue that I had in my life right there. So, because these highly sought after artists, it would make complete sense that a lot of people want them, and they want them of their character, right? I mean, your guy is Silver Surfer. Justin's is Spider-Man. By the way, I've just got to say it. I want to put it out there. There's been a lot of people contacting me saying, thank you for telling Justin what's the big deal with Spider-Man. And
look, my dad texts me and he's like, he doesn't like Spider-Man? Who does he like? Where's it at on the video who he likes?
I'm going to tell you right now. So my guy's always been Wolverine, and I'll tell you why. It's because of the tagline, because I'm the best at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice. There you go. Got him.
That's a good line. There you go, that's a good line. That's a good line. I love that.
With great power also comes great responsibility.
That's true. My kids said, yeah, Dad, that is kind of like you. And they referenced me on the basketball court, like, my younger days when I was less mature, a little more wild, but all joking aside, I just think he's a cool. I've always, how it is, whatever it is that makes you gravitate to a specific character, it's their storyline, and I kind of like the grittiness of Wolverine. Always did as a kid, and so I actually like Spider-Man. I like Silver Surfer too. I mean, there's just so many cool characters, and that's what when somebody hit me up and said, "Man, there are so many cool characters out there." I'm like, "Yeah, we haven't even gotten like next level and talked about some of the hobby hasn't in general talked about some of these characters that are out there that are so cool, so unique, have such great storylines, and to me, even some of the cool storylines around like some of the villains, right? Like the Apocalypse, Galactus, as you know, these are like next level, really thought out, high level characters that they don't have their own spinoff series. They haven't been on Saturday morning cartoons, which Justin covered in the last episode, which is such a great point. That kind of get ingrained in us, right? Yeah. So I'm excited about seeing that. Share with me the most interesting or unique sketch card you've seen and why.
Right. You want me to go first, Norn?
Justin?
Norn has a much deeper, richer history to pull from.
Okay.
So it might take him a minute. And so for me, the most difficult sketch card that I want to have that I have not been able to obtain is a Joe Jusko pack-pulled Marvel Masterpiece 2016 Spider-Man sketch card. He only did so many sketch cards to begin with, and I think maybe 2 or 3 of those were Spider-Man, if I remember correctly. 3
from 2016. 3.
So,
wow. And he started working on sketch cards, I think, in Marvel Masterpieces 07, 08. I think he was in there, which is crazy.
Right. And to just remind people, the 1992 Marvel Masterpiece, that whole entire set was done by Joe Jusko. and really got the original art side of Marvel cards really going. And so to me, he's important. He's significantly important. He's on that Mount Rushmore, so to speak. And when you think about Marvel cards, it really comes back to the artist, because it is art that we're really attracted to here. And to be able to have one of his pack pulled sketch cards of Spider-Man would be a Grail for me, maybe the Grail, to be honest with you.
Awesome. Great story.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's true. I mean, oh God, I don't want to tell you my Grail because then people look for my Grail. So I'm going to keep quiet. No, I'm just kidding. No, the great thing about talking about sketch cards is that they can't be found. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Basically, the people who do have them, what we're all discovering together right now, and what you out there in this world are discovering right now about sketch cards is like, damn, sketch cards are awesome.
Yeah,
they've had this revelation and they've been deep in the hole. You know what I mean? They know what they have, and there's like, this is mine. I'm not letting this go. And so it's really tough. Like, interesting sketch cards. I've seen so many really cool sketch cards where, there's this one beautiful sketch card by an artist named Neff, and I'm working with him now on a commission that I'll share with you guys when I get it. But there's this really cool sketch card where Gambit's standing there and he holds up his hand and he points to the logo on the card, and it electrically lights up like he's about to blow it up.
That is so cool.
It's just the sickest thing. And you're going to see it because it's actually on a website, and so it'll be here.
Love it. That's really, really cool.
It's really cool. Yeah. So that's the ones that I really like personally too. I like one. A lot of people don't like the sketch cards I like that I consider Grails because they're simple. They're nothing complicated, but I know the artist. Like, for instance, real quickly, there is, when I was a kid and reading comic books for the first time, my first introduction to Silver Surfer, I was born in 85. So my first introduction to the Surfer was the Ron Lim run of Silver Surfer. Mm-hmm. My dad brought home the comic book, and it was my first time reading a Surfer comic book. And I was like, oh man, this guy's like next level. I love it. Such a cool character, and I like his personality. I feel connected to this character. I think that's the other thing about Marvel cards that a lot of people who are coming to the hobby are like, man, people are so passionate about these cards. It's like, yeah. It's tough, man. These characters, and I'm not saying the sports don't have this. There's tons of sports connections. I've met amazing sports collectors who are like, I remember seeing this game and he was there, and it's just, or she was there, and it's such a beautiful moment. We're the same way with our characters. You know what I mean? They do kind of ingrain themselves here. But Ron Lim, did pack pull sketch cards.
That is cool. That's a cool sketch.
So my first, Surfer, the first experience with Surfer, here it is in my hand and part of my card collection, done by the artist that I found Silver Surfer through. Like, it's just this crazy way of collecting, especially with cards, which we all love.
Really well said. Really well said. It actually puts you in a place in time, takes you back to that state or that feeling, that emotion. It's all driven by emotion at the end of the day, right? Like, what was I feeling at that time? Like, what was that in my life? That's really, really cool and well said. The other side of it, of course, is the market is so much bigger than sports cards in this, I'll call it TCG. I'm going to throw Marvel in this category, and maybe it ultimately doesn't belong there, and it branched out on its own, but it's amongst superhero cards in general. There are so many people that are passionate about it, and go to Comic Cons, and they go to, in the Pokemon world. It's such a bigger universe. As a sports card collector myself for 20 years, I can become so myopic and put my blinders on and be like, okay, this is cool. Well, the great part about it is this: wax has gotten so expensive anymore that now I'm like looking around and saying, okay, you can't really hide this one on the old credit card or in the bank, that's a hard number to hide. Back in 2012, I could hide a couple cases and be like, that was a business expense, no worry, baby. Not an issue. Have you bought wax lately? That's a challenge. So it is really, but it's also a great blessing, because now I'm like, eyes are opening up. I'm looking at these other categories, and this is where I think people that are hobby masters, they get me excited. And I don't call them influencers per se, because they don't influence me. And that's never my goal. And that's why I've really enjoyed working with the Marvel, I'll say collectors, because they're passionate about the stories, not necessarily just the investment component of it. That's important. That's always going to be an important part of any collectible or art, but passionate about the stories. And so I absolutely love that, because I spend enough time on the investment asset side of it in sports cards. I feel like I'm like back to this like more pure place in my collecting experience with Marvel cards. Although now you just kind of burst my bubble and said none of them exist and are around and available anymore. But you know what? Hey,
you'll find them. They'll be around. They'll be around. The great thing about what's happening in the hobby, to the contrary of a lot of other people looking at this and worried, is that Justin and I have been a part of really amazing friendships and people who have both come into the hobby and decided to walk away from the hobby and, you know, do things with their collection and maybe even edit down their collection. So things will be coming out. The best thing to do is, especially with sketch cards, truth is this: get what you like. It speaks to you. Remember, it is art. It is one of one. If you're building up portfolio, you're building up something that you want to have your collection say something and speak to you in a way and speak to other people in a way, that's just going to take time and education. Look around, spend the time. Don't FOMO sketch cards. That's all I would say. You don't want to FOMO sketch cards.
And look, I get asked about sketch cards, hey, what do you think about the value of this sketch card and things of that nature? And I would tell you that looking at a sketch card as an investment is really, really, really dangerous, because art's subjective. So let's just start with that fact, right? So there's a lot of moving parts in what might make a sketch card valuable, so to speak. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's not a consensus on what does. Probably even on this panel, if we went through why would this one be worth more than that one. So you got to be really careful. Make sure that the art is the driving force for why you're after it first.
Love that.
And make sure it's something that you wouldn't mind keeping in your collection. And after you've done all your homework, maybe then you can start thinking, okay, maybe this is a little more risky, but maybe a worthy investment, so to speak. But you gotta really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I love that. I got a question for you guys. Are there many graded sketch cards? I think I've maybe seen one in my life.
All right, this is funny.
Do they exist?
When I first come into the hobby, the idea of grading a sketch card was laughed at. Okay, it was laughed at because the card is, in a sense, the card's being damaged, right?
Yeah,
being
right.
Colored on and flipped around. Like the artist is not necessarily, and I'm assuming here, they're not thinking you're trying to grade this a PS18 and a BGS 9.5. However, I have seen graded sketch cards. There's not a lot of them, not a lot of people that do grade them. And I'll mention Beckett here because I just had this experience. Beckett has been grading them and giving a lot of room for the artist to do what they do with a card and still give it a high grade and authenticate it.
That's cool.
Because I am seeing that, I do think there is a space and a place for some of these cards to be graded, and that it could, potentially make it a safer play for you as a buyer, so to speak.
Yeah.
What I'd be curious about, and Norrin, I'd like to see if you could speak to this, is there a chance that the card actually gets damaged in that encapsulation though? Because it does need, I don't know, I'm just asking.
I think, okay, so for first part of the question, so let's talk value real quick. Do I think grading a sketch card increases the value? No, I think it does increase the authenticity because it can be, there are forgeries out there. There are things you should be careful of in these grading companies. I hope, and I do believe they do know that they should be looking for certain criteria of the card to prove its authenticity. So I do think that's an important aspect to it. Would I care if one sketch card has a 10 over another and increase the reason I would pay more money? Never, because that's not what I'm looking for. But authenticity, I do think that is going to be something super important. And again, Marvel collectors they're just now spending time with grading and understanding that, yes, it costs money, and yes, it is an investment. Yes, it is a decision to make, but there is something very valuable to it because it is keeping everyone very safe. And there's no reason to, like looking at a card under a lens of a jewel and like, oh, I don't know, that corner looks a little soft, right? You can kind of just like, all right, I trust this. This looks great. I'm happy with this, right? And I think it takes away a lot of headaches. In terms of card being damaged through slabbing, I don't know that specifically. I would not want to send a piece of artwork to get capsulated, which is probably why I never thought to grade a sketch card. I think sketch cards, from what I heard, it's temperature and light, right? You keep it out of the light as much as you can, right? Direct sunlight fades everything, right? That's your biggest enemy. And temperature as well. You don't want it too high. You don't want it too cold, because again, the materials that are drawn with on the paper peel off. There's things that happen to that regard, especially with temperature. So when you collect sketch cards and you're thinking about safeguarding them, look up some of the biggest criteria of preserving art. That's going to be your best bet, in my opinion. I don't think the encapsulation hurts anything. I not that I've heard of. Hopefully not.
Very good.
Well, on my first,
I'm gonna get some graded.
I think to me, I'm going to share my thoughts around this because it's a really good topic. I collect a lot of handwritten letters from famous people and figures from
that's cool
around the world. I've always enjoyed them. I recently started getting many of them slabbed, and I think they just look so cool in the slab. Number one, it's great to hold on to them because I was really uncomfortable handling them, based upon the soft sleeve that they were in, like the report card insert that you used to get in middle school. I've got my General George Patton letter that he wrote from World War II in Germany, and I'm sharing it with people. And I have one I'm very proud of, which is the last letter that Pistol Pete Maravich wrote before he died. And I'm like sharing that with people and showing them, and then it's kind of bending down one way on one corner. He's holding it awkward. I'm like, all right, you're unfriended if you actually bend this. And, somebody I've known for 20 years. So, I got to control my emotions around that. And I did. But with that being said, having it in a slab to me feels like it might be a nice way to do it for some of those particular cards, because now they're encased. And if they don't move and you keep them out of the light, there's an extra layer of protection on it. So that's kind of where my thought goes to. But then again, I also, on my first sketch card, I didn't like the way he quite drew the face, so I kind of erased it and kind of redid the front side of the face on the silver surface.
I helped him out. I helped him out in post.
Should I have not done that?
Don't do that.
Should I have not done that? Okay.
I've been tempted to do that. That's funny that you mentioned that. I've been tempted. I've had like a few cards come in my possession. I was like, if I just got rid of that one line,
draw a mustache,
just right. Yeah, I was like, let me fix that. Let me fix that cheekbone. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, okay, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous game.
No, we're being very vulnerable right now. I just appreciate the vulnerability, guys. Kidding, I never did that. So I don't want people to say, I can't believe you erased a sketch card. So I don't even own a sketch card, although I'm going to buy some. There's no doubt about it. It's just I want to look for the right ones for me. And to me, that Wolverine card you showed was so sweet. I love it.
Beautiful
very,
card.
very cool.
Yeah,
man.
Beautiful piece. Yeah.
That's awesome. So we'll talk afterwards. We'll make a deal.
Yeah.
All right. So
we'll figure it out.
Like, Justin, why are you always trying to buy guest stuff when they come on the show? The show isn't about you. It's about the people. All right.
We know why you really have.
I'm sorry. But what a cool journey. What a cool journey. What a great insert. I mean, there's nothing else like that out in sports cards. Clearly there's other inserts and other products like Game of Thrones and Star Wars, as well as some other movie-based
Star
sets.
Wars, Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters.
Those were really, really cool. So can you just give us a quick run through of each one of those, what the product was and the release?
Yeah, sure. So this is Ghostbusters from Cryptozoic. It is 2015, which I always forget. This is an artist's proof, which is similar to an artist's return AP, artist proof. So this is very lifelike by Eric Manuel. I'm saying his name wrong, but fantastic. You'll have it on the screen. It's really great. It's very realistic. This is Ninja Turtles.
Love it.
So
wow,
Donnie,
that's special.
My favorite, 2013.
You only like him because he's the most intellectual of all of them. He's the most intellectual of all of them, Donatello. Come on, man.
My favorite color is purple. So I wish it was more complicated than that. But me and my little bow staff when I was a kid only knew purple. And we're like, yeah, it's him. And then I had a lot of friends when I was a kid. And then this is Star Wars. So you got a little Boba Fett action here.
That is so
which
cool.
is pretty crazy.
Wait, so hold on, I gotta ask about that one. That's a watercolor drawing. It just looks like an image.
So this is crazy. You want to see something really?
Yeah,
really,
he's about to blow
that's
your mind.
nuts.
This one took some time to get. This is by Carlos Caballero. He is the Nar of Star Wars. That's a sketch card.
Baby Yoda.
That's a booklet sketch card, I believe.
That's a sketch card.
The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, huh?
So now this is really cool. So let me tell you the story. This is a booklet.
That's cool.
Booklet sketch card. Now this is the artistry that comes with some sketch cards. He had about, 40 booklets. I don't remember. And what he decided to do was this. Each one features the scene that makes the character who they are in the series. So Luke finding out that Darth is his father. So you'd have Darth Vader here and then Luke Skywalker here.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Skywalker meeting his sister for his first time, Princess Leia, right? Han Solo with Princess Leia for the first time. Yoda and Luke, right?
That's so cool.
So all the cards are all these cards are these unique moments in the Star Wars history that kind of define these characters' journeys. And this is the Mando and Baby Yoda Grogu here.
What?
And he made a knowing look, even though you can't see his face. That's what. Oh.
He's like, oh.
I want the booklet Jar Jar Binks and the protesters outside the movie theater. That one's really important to me.
No.
Yeah. No Jar Jar.
No Jar Jar. That's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good, right? That's the running joke in the house. I'll do the Jar Jar voice. Emily's like, oh God, please stop.
That's solid, man. That's solid. Respect. I like it.
It's my side gig. What can I do?
How about Lord of the Rings? Does Lord of the Rings have a
yes, Lord of the Rings is crazy. So real sketch card god is Matt Fuller. And he has an amazing channel on Instagram. And I'll say it in a little bit because I don't remember exactly the phrasing. But he's phenomenal. He's more of a sketch card genius than I ever will be. And he was at one point, he has more Marvel sketch cards than God at this point. And what he did get into at one point was Lord of the Rings. And he has this beautiful collection featuring scenes, pivotal scenes from the movies that he would have artists do commissions for. And he was able to assemble the whole Fellowship of the Ring, the first movie, through sketch cards. It's just a crazy endeavor that he went off and really solid collector, really creative collector.
So this whole genre of pop culture cards is what I'll ultimately call it with Lord of the Rings. Would you guys name it something different, or would you call them pop culture?
Non-sports.
They call them non-sports generally. I like pop culture, but non-sports is what they call them. Yeah,
to me, non-sports, there's a lot. Where the movies fall in, and I'll say comics. That's just again, you see them at shows. I've seen them at shows for years. But those people that were the dealers in those, they generally stopped bringing them to shows like I'd say late 2010, 11, 12, 13, because there wasn't a huge market around it. They could make way more money selling sports cards. And I was just talking to a longtime friend of mine about this. And yes, they sold some of the product releases, but it makes sense. They left and went on to Comic-Con and other events and shows where they could make some money, and they had a following and a fan base around it. So that's why, again, these have been around for a while, and the search and the hunt is so cool, and the chase is cool because you knew they existed. Your mind was just elsewhere if you were at, the National and you were, I'd say late 2000s, you were hunting specific cards, or you were, breaking certain products. So this journey is very, very cool. And this is going to be the one of hopefully many different episodes that we do to educate everyone that's interested about this or would like to become interested. And this is a really important part of this journey with these sketch cards. To me, they are as cool, as unique, and better in some ways than the PMGs, although those get all the love, right? But then again, Post Malone did not write a song about a PMG, he wrote about it in AP.
Not yet.
Okay, so hey, that says something. That means something. Is there, Justin, question for you? Did Todd McFarlane, did he, or you as well, nor did he do a sketch card?
Todd McFarlane.
Excuse me.
Todd McFarlane has not done a sketch card for Marvel. Because in 91, he left Marvel and it has not been available in any form or fashion since then. It wasn't a happy exit back then. And so to to get a sketch card of him doing something for, say, Spider-Man or Venom, he created Venom.
That's so cool.
An absolute dream come true. It would skyrocket anything I own. To have it just has not happened.
So let me show you this.
Okay.
Let me show you this. This will blow your mind.
Okay.
Just kidding. I don't have anything.
I knew it. I was like, I swear, I'm finding out where this guy is. I'm not doing this.
That would be cool because obviously he's well known for that. And then crossed over and created Spawn, which, in the Impact comic group was such an important character. And
I will tell you this,
as well.
before 1990 awesome. MU, there's a 1998 Spider-Man set that is almost all Todd McFarlane art.
What is?
That is vastly underrated in my opinion. Not like a PMG or that kind of thing. I'm just talking about in general. It's a wonderful set with a ton of his art. That's really great.
It's beautiful, and like I'm excited to see people start going on those journeys because I think a lot of people. Sorry to be new agey and say journey. But I'm excited to see people kind of like figure out, like, oh, wait a minute. Damn, there's a card where like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, like all these guys like and women who've like done amazing characters. Wait, there's a card out there and no one knows about it, hidden in an insert set or something. Yeah. That's always great to see people start making those kind of discoveries and stuff because they're out there.
And you have artists like Peach Momoko, who is the variant queen right now for comic books. Like she's doing all the variant covers. It's a very distinct style, almost an anime watercolor style that's brilliant. But she was doing Marvel cards. She was one of these up and coming artists. So now people are going back and chasing her autos and her sketch cards.
Yeah. And she has her own set. It's called Marvel Anime. And inside that set, she released an X amount of sketch cards, maybe less than 20, I think, something super rare. And she did chibi style versions of the characters on these sketch cards, super coveted, super rare, super expensive. But I think Marvel Anime is going to be like Marvel Masterpieces, where it will be held as like this very special set. Because it is a very special set. It's really cool. And they'll change the artist. So Marvel Anime will come out soon called Volume 2, I think, or just Marvel Anime 2. And it's going to feature a different artist and showcase that artist's work. So it'd be really cool to see that.
I completely agree, especially for, I'll say, people that are in their late teens, early 20s. Anime has come back on the scene so heavy. Yeah. And it's such an important part of their life is integrating Marvel Anime into it. That's going to be a big card for them, especially as they grow and get more discretionary income and they start collecting. Hey, I respect you right now as if you just are like, you know what, I'm gonna live in my mom's basement and I'm gonna collect Marvel Anime cards. Just let you know, I respect you and I appreciate you as long as you do the right things in your life.
Because in 20 years, you're a millionaire, so thank you.
Hardboard millionaire. Getting tongue in cheek a little bit, but you just gotta figure out, hey, what are your priorities in life, okay? Just saying.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I think to note about sketch cards moving forward is sketch cards were really rare as an insert. Then they kind of became available in every box because the print run was so small, and they're now becoming more and more of a rare top insert again. So it's a little bit of this wave that they've been on in terms of like the hit ratio, so to speak. We're moving back towards that case hit level, and sometimes maybe more than a case hit, where it's an achievement that you do on EPAC to even get a sketch card or these super rares.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be normal. Yeah, that's going to be the norm for the future for sure.
So Justin, and where do I'll ask it this way. So gentlemen, where do I go and chase a Marvel sketch card? I mean, the main release on my mind is the Spider-Man metal release that's coming up here soon, right? Are those available in that release? I'm chasing a platinum portrait, just to let you know. But can I chase a sketch card in there also?
Absolutely, they'll be there.
Okay, cool. Do we have any idea of the artist, or is there anybody notable that we should be on the lookout for when we're ripping case after case of that?
I'll tell you the artist that I'm going to be chasing and looking for is Ash Gonzalez. He's the artist that I own the most of and most invested. There's another one named Dre Studios, Andre Osh. Did I say his last name right?
Osh, yeah.
Who has a style that I really, really respect. But again, they're going to be, I think, basically case hits. We don't know the odds exactly yet, but I don't think they're going to be.
Who do those two artists represent? Which characters?
They do an array.
Yeah. So Andre, I would say, does Venom and symbiotes at a really, really high level, not to look down on any other character he does, because he does a lot of them great. And then Ash Gonzalez does females. He actually does them too good because Upper Deck will reject them because they look too real.
Too lifelike?
Well, they say it can't look like you used a model.
Yeah.
Like it's too good.
That's unbelievable.
It almost exceeds the comic book feel. And so his stuff is amazing.
That's awesome. Really, really cool. What else should we know about Marvel cards now as we close this segment? Thank you both. You guys are OGs to me, goats, legends. You're part of my super team at this point. I mean, honestly, I love learning it. This was such a cool conversation. But what else do we need to know about, for let's just say the individual like myself that's getting into this, maybe wants to move some assets to get into this as well, maybe a little more involved. Are there certain releases I should be looking at? Are there certain characters I want to be following? Any final thoughts, guys?
I think the best advice I can give for someone aspiring to collect sketch cards is so the new releases that are coming up are going to be one per case, maybe, one, sometimes even one or two per 2 or 3 cases. Like it's going to get pretty rare in terms of where Marvel cards are going, just because so many other inserts have now gotten a lot of love, and the audience is changing and building and evolving in that way, where inserts are like, well, yeah, I'm super happy I got this insert. I'm okay not getting a sketch this box. So that's happening. The best advice I can give you is to really just look at the sketches that have sold, look at what people are paying, and look at artists. When I first started sketch card hunting, I was in the same boat, couldn't find anything. Nobody was going to sell me anything because they didn't know me, and well, they didn't want to sell either because they're coveted pieces of artwork. So I originally started out by commissioning artists and doing that. Yeah, I did. That's how I started. So on my Instagram, the earliest videos I have there are mail days where I'm like, oh, I got this surfer, I got this piece. And yeah, it's really cool because
right on.
Not only did I get pieces that I really loved and got to enjoy for a while, but eventually, like a year and a half down the line, I had tradable pieces for sketch cards that I liked more, that maybe were pack pooled, or maybe from artists that were more important to me in terms of like artists that were limited. Like I could get 2 APs from my artist and have one, and the person who has a card wants like, hey, I like that AP, and you're like, I'm gonna hide this other one and trade you this guy. You know what I mean? That way you kind of still get to enjoy this personal piece of art, which is really lovely, but then you get to kind of finally get into the hobby and start collecting. I would always look at sketch cards too and realize that do not get hung up on what's better. Do not get hung up on that line you're trying to erase. Appreciate it. If you have to squint when you look at it, then squint. Do not fixate on the details. Remember, the piece is supposed to affect you overall, I would say, because that was the thing that bothered me back in the day. And now I kind of look like, nah, I appreciate it as a whole. I'm good.
Well said, but your taste, my friend, has matured. Your palate's become more sophisticated. For me, I want the most color, the most action in the card, but hey, just let me go on my own journey.
Go on your own journey, man. That's the way to do it. More detail is beautiful, man.
Justin, your thoughts?
Yeah, so if we're speaking specifically about sketch cards, the thing that really drove me is I wanted to have premium set card stock. I wanted as much full body as possible, and I wanted to be able to tell there was effort in the details. That doesn't mean like the Simon Bianchi that he showed earlier may at first glance seem simple. It is not. So, let the card do its magic over you first before you really judge it. But I did want to be able to tell like, hey, this person actually, you see the talent and the effort that was put into the card. And then some advice that Norrin gave me early on that was really good, because I was just diving into this world and didn't know sketch card artists, which was to look them up on Instagram and look at their following and see how people responded and reacted to them. And then take that name and plug it into eBay and maybe see what the past sales were. And that just helped me gauge, hey, if this thing's $200, is it really $200? Like, is there a sense that I could actually get a better overall card in terms of the way it affected me at a lower price or the same price. And so for me, that's the way in which I judge the cards that I went after. I also purpose to not overdo it on sketch cards initially. And I would say I probably own 10 sketch cards, and I own a lot of Marvel cards. So for me, it's a very, very specific taste for me to spend money, and some of them I've spent a lot of money on, like a lot, thousands even. And so it doesn't mean that I don't value sketch cards. I do, but that's kind of how I would focus as initial searches.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. This is why we call this Marvel Masterclass, because you get to hear about the stories, the history, and then also the strategies and tactics. And really, I know that's valuable to so many people, including myself. Final question. What if you could have a sketch card commissioned? What would it be? Who are the characters? I'm going to give you a moment because I'm going to go first because I was thinking about this. Okay. Mine would be Wolverine with Cyclops up against the wall, 2 claws coming out each side of his face.
The frame.
Okay, the frame. Because I still believe to this day that Cyclops was creeping on this girl, Jean Grey, and he stole him from Wolf. I'm just saying, man. And so that's kind of like that wild fierceness. You're showing a little bit of restraint as well. We don't know how the card ends, but I'm chasing that one.
That old middle claw coming up the throat.
Middle claw.
No, middle claw's not out yet. It's not out yet. I mean, it's just,
it's not. It's temptation. It's the temptation of Wolverine wanting to get rid of Cyclops.
I love that.
Yeah, I can't deny that Jean Grey Wolverine chemistry there. I give you that, man, for sure.
No, I'm chasing that one.
So assuming the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, right, recreating AMS 301 would be amazing. But the 300 is great, but I'd like the red blue costume. For me, I actually already own the card. I reached out to Ash Gonzalez and had him commission. You heard in the last episode, if you watched, that I believe that Spider-Man is a Michael Jordan of Marvel cards. And I took that to heart. So I had him do 2 cards. One was Peter Parker Spider-Man in the rookie homage of Michael Jordan, he did an amazing job of that one. And then the Miles Morales Jumpman Jordan iconic image. And so those 2 cards mean a tremendous amount to me. They really communicate a lot in terms of my desire was to create something that would welcome sports card collectors into the Marvel card hobby, because we're all talking about cardboard, right? That's what we're talking about. And to bring those 2 worlds together, and he did it so beautifully on those trading cards that it'd be really hard for me to have anything that tops it.
Those are 2 of the coolest cards I've ever seen. You had those in Atlanta when I first, I guess the term, if I'm going to be honest with it, started the journey and the addiction into Marvel. You had both those, and I was like, that is so cool. Tell me about this. And I had no idea until you explained a little bit further. I just think that is so cool. Imagine sending a card to Tatis or LeBron and saying, hey, would you commission a nice little inscription for me on this?
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't even, I don't even know where it'd go in the round file immediately, wouldn't it? I mean, there's no such thing, So very cool story. Norrin, yourself.
If I was going to commission a sketch card from an artist, it would be by Jim Lee, and to have him do the Silver Surfer, Jim Lee style.
Oh, very cool.
That's something that'd be just insane to see. Because he did a Surfer actually in a card in Marvel Onslaught, and his surfers are just, Jim Lee is just so iconic to me. I'm just of that age group. I'm just that guy. And, to see a Jim Lee surfer on a sketch card, just like a headshot or whatever, I would just, be awesome.
That's classic and iconic. I love it. Hey, thank you guys so much. I learned a lot. This is so enjoyable and fun for me. And for you guys out there watching this right now, there are people in this hobby, and this is what makes this hobby great. There are a lot of people in this hobby that you can reach out and relate to and get information from and learn from and collaborate with. These are 2 of the best, and I can say that sincerely because I've worked with so many people in this hobby. Justin, check him out right now. You see his Instagram handle up on the screen. He's just, he cares. He's willing to help you out, and check him out. Check out their content. They do such a great job. And Norrin here, is obviously, he's a goat at so many aspects of Marvel cards. He's just running off all the numbers, the storylines. I love it. It's just fascinating. And it was really well done. So Norrin, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Check him out at Sketch Card Hive. And I can tell you again, in person, I met both of these guys. Didn't know them. I just came up inquiring and geeking out on the cards. I couldn't stop staring at them, and hung around the booth for a while. And one of their other friends who was nice enough to talk to me, Barry, kind of shepherded me around and got people to help me understand the stories and the concepts. Just two of the best guys in the hobby right here, right now. So thank you guys both for joining. I mean that sincerely. And thanks for joining the Marvel Masterclass with the Hobby Masters, Justin and Norrin. Check them out on Instagram.